and he has been trying for a year now to get out of this. He needs to be continued to be beat down for what is just the most egregious ranking ever.
Shut up and sit down.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Roll Tech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
What's up, Wisconsin? Welcome to Season 2, the Inside Wisconsin Studios. My name is Trevor Thomas. That is still John Anderson. What's up, J.A.?
Peace. I've paid my Packers season tickets.
Oh, good. That's good.
So we're up to date there, so we can go. Still haven't figured out how we're handling the international game, but the ones at Lambeau,
you'll be
care
there
of.
for that.
So this is my first plea. If anybody needs a preseason ticket, let me know.
You're not going to make it back for those?
I probably won't make it back. I'll probably just like I do all the time. Here, if somebody wants some preseason tickets, get a hold of Trevor, text us, do whatever. We'll let him go for a song. You can have.
That's
them.
awesome.
Just don't be a dope and get me thrown out of my seats in the preseason.
Yeah, let's not do that. No, none of that. So are you planning another John Buccigross weekend or no?
I don't know. That's so far in the future. I like to think of myself more as at least in terms of sayings like Rick from Casablanca. Last night is too far to think about, and tonight is too far ahead to worry about. So I don't know.
You're a busy guy. Let's be honest. And so on today's episode, you show up in a different setting than the Inside Wisconsin Studios. You're in your car.
So I'm here now as we do this. But for the actual interview, I had to arrive late because I have a doctor call. I had to go see the surgeon since we've got a little repair coming up, try to improve the golf game and some things like that. Good. Yes. So I show up at odd times in an odd place, but that's okay. Because the star of the show is right where he needs to be.
Oh, and he's right in the middle.
Right. And so then we have Joe Thomas where we need to be. By the way, in honor of Joe, because I don't have anything brownish, I wore, this is as close as I could come, my Willie Davis shirt, Packer Hall of Famer. He was the anchor of those great Lombardi teams on defense. Every bit the star, every bit the pro that Bart Starr was. And as people may or may not know, depending on how old you are or how much you care to dig into the team history, began as a Cleveland Brown, came over. He was a Cleveland Brown. He was perhaps the best Packer ever that was also a Cleveland Brown.
And the best Brown ever that happened to be a Badger, without a doubt, it's Joe Thomas. And that is the conversation today. So let's be honest. Let's jump in. And I appreciated it, J.A. I asked for just a few minutes with Mr. Thomas to try to right the ship, and I needed to. Here we go. Joe Thomas, Episode 1, Season 2, Inside Wisconsin. And so, here we are, Episode 1, Season 2. I asked John to give Joe and I a moment to just, talk through this whole... Yeah, that's the Joe Thomas. Joe, thanks for coming on Inside Wisconsin.
Hey, my pleasure. I'm so happy to be here so that you have the opportunity to right some wrongs in your past. Don't we all wish we had that opportunity to really correct the record once and for all and just, smooth over these waters here that tend to be a little choppy between you and I.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, so let's just get right to it. And I am beating sweat down my back, man. Like this is the... All right, so John will join us in just a bit, but John granted you and I a time. All right, so here's the story. This is Episode 1 of Season 2. Episode 1 of Season 1, we had Coach Alvarez on. We're going to talk a lot about Coach and your relationship with him, and we did a top 5 list this day, and I knew that you were eventually going to see the tweet. You did, and you said, Trevor, we all have bad days. I did not have you as number 1, and that so far has been one of the biggest mistakes of my life.
Well, I appreciate it. It's always good for people to feel sorry for their crimes and to do everything they can to accept the punishment and try to move on and be better people. So I appreciate that. Apology accepted.
Cheers. Thanks. I appreciate that too. So if you were going to have a top 5 list, Joe, like if we were going to pin you down and say, all right, here are the top 5 Badger football players, have you ever thought about that list? And I guess, where do you consider yourself on it?
Yeah. So it's a little bit difficult to sort of evaluate yourself in that situation because as a Badger, I feel like there's a little bit of humility that it involves with growing up in the great state of Wisconsin. So I'll refrain from putting myself on that list, but I do know that when Coach Alvarez retired as an athletic director, he did a lot of podcasts. I went on his podcast, and there was a lot of discussion around, who the greatest players that he'd ever coached were. And he put me on that list, unlike you. He put me,
no, you were on my list, just so we're clear.
Well, there's only
Love
one
you
list,
too.
right? You're either first or you're last. Isn't that what they say, Ricky Bobby? So he did put me at the top of his list. So I feel like he's got a big enough platform and enough pelts on the wall in Wisconsin that I don't have to dispute anything that he said. But I've thought about that because obviously Ron Dane in my mind is like, he's got to be the next guy on that list, right? Yeah, Heisman Trophy winner, all-time leader in college football and rushing. So he's clearly right up there. And then after Ron Dane, it becomes a little bit more difficult, right? Because the Badgers have had a lot of really, really good running backs. They've had some really good receivers, actually, when you look through their history. Chris Chambers, Lee Evans, a guy that I played with. And then you look at offensive linemen. I mean, Gabe Creamy also won an Outland Trophy, as did I. You've got guys like Travis Frederick. You've got guys like J.J. Watt, obviously. You've got T.J. Watt. So I think that top 5 is really difficult. I think maybe when you're trying to select only 5, you say J.J. Watt clearly has probably done the most for Badger football once he's moved on to the NFL. I mean, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the all-time greats in pro football. But he only played 1 year at Wisconsin. So do you ding him for that, right? Same thing with Russell Wilson. Like, he's clearly the best quarterback that's ever come from Wisconsin. And he had an incredible season at Wisconsin, but he only had 1 season. How do you compare that to like a Brooks Bollinger who played 4 years as a Badger? It's like, it all depends on where your scale is and how you value longevity versus, how high did that rocket ship go when they were here. So I feel like I would be definitely doing a lot of people disservice if I tried to rank them like that. But I feel like some of those names, you throw a Jonathan Taylor in there, some of those names right there, I think are definitely guys that are deserving of being in that conversation.
So what you're saying is it's more difficult to make a top 5 list than any of us would probably give.
I see where this is. Okay, we got a little bias in this conversation here. Yes,
good. So it's difficult.
I completely agree. It's very difficult. There is no doubt. And it reminds me of the conversation on my podcast, the Tom and Hawk Football Show, where we talk about, all right, who are the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL? And you always make it a binary question. Are they a top 5 guy or are they not? Because it's kind of hard to say, oh, this is 1, this is definitely 3, this is definitely 4. And by the end of the list, you've got like 10 guys in your top 5. And so really it's like a tiered system. That's kind of how I would look at this greatest Badgers of all time list, or at least in the modern era, because that's kind of how I'm thinking about it with Coach Alvarez and beyond. Because obviously you can go further back and then you get into the Amichis and some of these guys that were a little bit before my time that I saw black and white film or just photos of them and people telling me how great they were. But I feel like there's a tier, right? Like, are you a top 5 worthy guy? Yes, you're in tier 1. There may be 7 to 10 of those guys. And then like, who's a tier 2 guy? Who's like, that next level, who was a great All-American, guy. I should mention Jim Leonard. He had one of the greatest Badger careers on the defensive side of the football ever. 3-time All-American, started as a walk-on. He should definitely be mentioned, and his legacy continues as one of the best defensive coordinators now in the NFL. So it's a fun conversation. We could have an hour's worth of this conversation.
I just wanted to make sure you and I were good.
But I feel like
before we bring John on, we're good now. All right.
You send me one of those beers that I'm sure you got in a little mini cooler somewhere, because
there's a couple.
There might be a few back there. Then we'll
back.
call it even. I appreciate it, my man.
Hi, J.A. Welcome. Good to see you.
What a bunch of BS rationalization.
Oh, I love it.
Seriously, can't you just say that Trevor made an egregious mistake and that 5, even if you're going to tier it, 5 is too low? It's like buddy of mine one time, he met this gal in a bar, and he said, I don't know where she ranks, but she's in my top 1. And so I feel like that's where Joe Thomas is. So I think top five just is even that is a slight, and he has been trying for a year now to get out of this. And I quite frankly think that you have let him up and taken your foot off his neck. Uh, you are so Joe Thomas the merciful is what you are, because the man deserves to be not pitied. He needs to be continued to be beat down for what is just the most egregious ranking ever.
Well, one thing I know is I'm still a cheap date, John, because he said he'd pay me off with beer, and that pretty much smooths over anything in my life.
Okay, well, if that's where he went, but the idea, even your coach scoffed at him, like, well, yeah, no, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah,
So
Coach Barry and literally everybody else.
I'm glad I came late because I heard that part with the whole you guys being all this love fest. And I'm glad you've worked it out, but I'm not going to forgive him because I think it was egregious and he should pay for that.
Yes,
and I think he needs to continue to be hammered for it.
I agree. I can agree on that. I'm not mad at him, but I still feel like he should be made fun of for a very long time, a lifetime of long times.
We're holding up our end of the bargain on that.
We're good with that then, at least.
Yeah, we're doing well on that.
Hi, Joe. Sorry I'm late. How many surgeries did you had during your NFL career?
That's a good question. I think I had like 6, somewhere in there.
Okay. But you managed to get them around so you didn't miss games.
Yes. So they were off-season surgeries, mostly on my knees. And then my final injury, I tore my tricep tendon. So that ended the season, and that was in season. Unfortunately, that was a long one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see, I'm dealing with a horrible pinky injury, which
I
understand. A lot of people tougher than me would say play through it. I can't. So we've just come from the doctors, and that's why the surgeon. That's why I'm late, and I apologize. But
no problem.
But I'm going to play through it. I am right now. I'm the scheduled surgery on Friday, and I plan to be on air on Sunday night.
Nice.
The doctor says that's aggressive and ambitious, but I'm gonna give it a go.
That's true toughness. You only find that toughness in Wisconsin. I know that
from Wisconsin. Clearly,
that's right.
All right, so let's get to that real quick. Obviously, Joe, you grew up just like John and I did here in the state of Wisconsin. How did it help mold you for your success in your career?
I think the easy answer is you grew up in Wisconsin. You grew up in the Midwest. There's a set of core values that I feel like growing up in this era is indoctrinated a little bit in you. Like I think the folks that here are generally speaking hardworking, blue collar, humble. They don't want to talk about themselves all that much. And I think some of those loyalty, I think, is really important in this area, in this state. And I think those values, those characteristics, if they're ingrained in you as a younger person, they become really important to you throughout your life, and they kind of shape who you are and the decisions that you make throughout life. And I think they really bode well, especially in the field of athletic play. Like those are really good qualities of great team players. And I think how you were raised, how I was raised, how the state had a big hand in sort of molding who I was, had a big impact in the success that I had throughout my football career.
Yeah. Same with us.
I think there's a humility that comes with it too, that I don't know that necessarily is unique. But I kind of look at it like this, and I experienced some of the same thing with people I know from my time in Missouri the same way. And they go, if you're really great, if you're Ron Dane, if you're Joe Thomas, if you're Aaron Rodgers in Wisconsin, and they'll go, yeah, he was pretty good. Like that's the peak of how
that's right. That's pretty good. That's right.
That guy was pretty good. And you're like, okay, well but how do you blend that sort of attitude with to be really good at anything, to reach the level that you did, to reach the level pro athlete? There has to be a certain amount of confidence. There has to be a certain amount of self awareness that I am really good, that I am better than that guy, that I kind of beat the guy across the line. So how do you jive those two things?
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the things that is really highly valued in this state in Wisconsin is like a self-deprecating humor a little bit. I think it plays very well, and people really hold it in high regard. They want to hang out with people that have that self-deprecation. And I think that goes hand in hand with humility, right? Because you're always kind of making fun of yourself. You're never letting anybody tell you how great you are. And I think that's the key to achieving greatness in a lot of respects, is because it's constantly pushing you to be better than yourself and never saying, oh, the job is done, it's finished, that's good enough. Good is good enough. Like, there's always this sense that I can be better and I can do more for the people around me, whether that be my family or my teammates. And I think that was the mindset that I always had during my career at Wisconsin. And then when I got into the NFL, was no matter what I'm doing, I can always do a little bit more. I can always be a little bit better. And I think sometimes guys that have success in college, you see they get to the NFL, they're a high draft pick. They're given a lot of money, they're giving a lot of fame, and they feel like, I've arrived. I'm great. I'm very happy and satisfied with where I am. People are constantly telling them how good they are, and they start believing it, right? But that's just not the mentality that you see and you hear from people that grow up in this state.
I'm pretty sure that showed up for you on draft day like never before. When you're literally out on Lake Michigan fishing and you get a call on, what was it, your Nokia or your flip phone?
You know, at the time, I want to say it was, Motorola flip phone. It was not great service.
Didn't have to be there for draft day. Instead, it was a phone call while you were fishing with your dad and some friends on Lake Michigan. So take us back to that moment. What led you to go, you know what, I'm not going. I'm just going to go fishing.
I think the priorities of people that grow up in Wisconsin, it's like family is really important. It was really important for me. And certainly I loved the idea of being able to play in the NFL. But I was busy on draft day. I had a date with my dad going back many decades to be out on Lake Michigan, to be fishing with him on that Saturday afternoon, like we'd done so many times, or Saturday morning. And I wasn't going to let something pesky like the NFL draft, which, by the way, I'm not sure if you know, but there's no scoreboard. You can't win or lose on draft day, an NFL game. And so whether I was there or not was not going to change the outcome. It was like, whether you show up for your final and they give you the grade to your final right there, or you check it out online later on, it's not going to change how you did on the test. My test was my 4 years of college football that I played, and finding out where I was going to go and continue my football career. Didn't matter if I was there on stage with a brand new suit, hugging Roger Goodell and a bunch of people I'd never met before, or if I was hanging out with my dad. And by all estimations, for me, it was going to be a lot more fun, a lot more enjoyable hanging out with my dad than it was in an uncomfortable suit that, by the way, I didn't own. So I didn't want to have to pay money to go buy a suit and go hang out and hug a bunch of people that I actually had never met before. And I had to pretend that I really liked on that day.
Love that.
Are you ever still look back at that and go, people's response was amazing,
Yes.
right? Like it became famous all because you did what was sort of natural, but people still, it was viral at that time, whatever viral was, because the guy went fishing. And I'm still sometimes amazed by the stir it caused by a guy who just went out on a boat.
I know. I'm honestly to this day still amazed, because there's plenty of people that are not Browns fans. They're not from Wisconsin, and that's what they come up and talk to me about. They want to talk to me about, hey, that guy that went fishing on draft day. And the irony is not lost on me that the reason I went fishing were to avoid the spotlight, avoid the attention, hang out with my dad, spend some good quality family time. And sort of what happened was I got more attention. I got more people to remember it. I got more notoriety and fame over something that the point of it was kind of the opposite. So it is interesting how that shook out. And I think it was something that you see a lot of guys doing now, because I've always felt like I was the type of person that always just questioned everything. And, that's one of the hallmarks of being a Wisconsin Badger at the college, is sort of like the question everything mentality. I didn't take anything for granted. And whatever the status quo was, I was always asking why, and maybe this should be different. And up until that point, the status quo of NFL draft was you just went, like, you didn't even question it. That's just what you do. And I questioned it, like, why would I want to do that? Like, just because somebody calls me and Roger Goodell tells me I should like this, like maybe I like hanging out with my dad on the boat fishing a little bit more. And I think it caused a lot of people to ask some questions about maybe being at draft day is not the best situation for me. Let me make the best decision for myself and my family. And you've seen a lot of guys since then on draft day decide, hey, I want to just maybe be a little bit more low key. Maybe we'll let the cameras come and record it or be in the room when I do get drafted so they can get that reaction for their TV show. But maybe I want to hang out with my friends and family on that day because things are going to get a little bit crazy from that moment forward.
Yeah, I find the irony because the draft is actually teams fishing in a very soft pond.
Exactly.
But they're the ones that are doing the fishing.
That's awesome.
We've gone through fishing on the show a lot, so I'm not going to go over my thing about it. But I want to know, like, if you could, and they said, hey, Joe, today's your last day you get to go fishing, what would you go fish for?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I was just in Florida last week fishing in the ocean, which was amazing. But if it was my last day, like death row meal tonight, and they're putting me in the electric chair tomorrow morning, I think I'm going fishing up in Canada. I was actually up in this amazing place called Wollaston Lake Lodge. It was my retirement gift to myself and my my dad. We went fishing up there and caught these just ginormous northern pike up to 50 inches. Got to catch walleyes in the little rivers that came in there. And to me, that would be like the perfect day of fishing because it would remind me of the type of fishing that I did growing up because we did a lot of trips up to northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, Canada, canoe trips where we would go fishing for walleye and smallmouth bass and catch northern pike. And it was just so much fun, right? That like hand-to-hand combat with these freshwater fish in the Midwest, in Canada. I think that would be probably my my death row fishing day.
Have you ever sturgeon speared?
No, but I've read about it. I've looked at it. I've thought about it, and I would love to try it someday because it reminds me of deer hunting, and I love to go deer hunting. I love the tradition. I love the familiarity, like the family atmosphere that it creates, the bonding, and I feel like the sturgeon spearing is, in a large way, it's kind of like the deer hunt for sturgeon.
Yes, that's awesome. Wait for them to show up for you. That's exactly right. All right. More Wisconsin stories with the Wisconsin legend, Joe Thomas. We are back in just a bit inside Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Roll Tech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
John, I don't suspect that you're a country bumpkin in terms of the old country music scene. However, I think about a country song by my buddy Luke Bryan. Like, we're on first name basis. We're not. It says, I'm going to sit right here and
his first and last name, but okay.
Yeah, I'm going to sit right here and drink a beer. And of course, it's a Miller Lite. Did you just tell me that you're friends with Darius Rucker? What? What?
A little bit. Yeah. I've gotten to know him a little bit. He came to, this is kind of a John, Connecticut. He was playing in Connecticut and my wife's a very big fan of his. And he was in at the station, and I said, hey, we're going to your concert. And he goes, like, where are you sitting? I said, well, I don't know. We just got tickets. He's like, here, you need to come see me. All right, I'll put your name on the list. So we go, and I put the name on the list as Anderson. Here's a couple of passes. Now we sit up there and we're watching, and my wife said, that's what these are for. They seem like they should be more. I don't know. So we go explore. We go down an elevator, and sure enough, we come around the corner. The guy, yeah, waves us in, and all of a sudden we come through, and he's like, "Dude, we've been waiting for you." And David Nail, by the way, is the guy who is his opening act. David Nail, country singer, went to Mizzou. He's from for a time, and David's from the Boot Heel. He's down from Kennett, Missouri, little tiny town where Sheryl Crow's from as well. Sheryl Crow, but also I had a teammate from there. Skip Miller was from Kennett, Missouri. His real name was Horton Watkins Miller III. Damn it, coach, could you just call me Skip like everybody else? Anyway, so there's all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so I know Darius Rucker a little bit. Like if I could drink beer to country and Western music,
okay,
and then take away the country and Western music, I'm having a good day. Now I'm just drinking Miller Lite.
Me and Miller Lite, nothing playing, specifically not country. That's I guess that's all we need to understand. It is clearly still winter here in Wisconsin, so make sure to grab a Miller Lite. We suggest watching basketball indoors. Little snow here today. Again, we just cannot get out of this stuff. We're trying. All right, Miller Lite. Great taste, 96 calories. Go to MillerLite.com/Inside Wisconsin to find delivery options near you, or you can pretty much pick Miller Lite up anywhere they sell beer. It is indeed Miller time. Celebrate responsibly, Wisconsin. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. I will have a Miller Lite in my hand and somehow have country music queued up just to see what you do. Yeah. We are back inside Wisconsin. It is a break time between segments of Joe Thomas, and it is top 5 list time. J.A., we're not doing it.
I think in deference to Joe and how much trouble you got yourself in last time, that maybe it's best if we just put a pin in this and we come back to it.
Yeah, we're not doing it. No top 5 list time.
Is something that should, at least this week, be on hiatus.
I think it's the right move. The top 5 list in the first episode a year ago didn't go so hot. Yeah, we're suspending the top 5 list for the week.
We have suspended your top 5 privileges for this episode.
All right. The guest of honor, the first top 5 list should have been number 1. Back to Joe Thomas. We're back inside Wisconsin. Trevor, John, and the Joe Thomas. Grateful you're here, man. All right, so one of my questions was, what do you miss about Wisconsin the most? But you're here. You live down in Madison. You moved back. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I do live in Madison. It's where my wife and I met when we were in school. My wife was a basketball player. It was when we decided to get married where we said we were going to raise our kids. My family still lives in Brookfield. My wife's family lives up in Eau Claire, Chippewa Falls, up in that area. And so Madison's kind of like a nice in-between point. We got 4 kids. And so if we didn't move back to Wisconsin, the grandparents would never be those free babysitters that are all that grandparents are good for. And so it was really important for us to be able to be back in Wisconsin, to be close to family, to raise our kids similar to where and how we were raised. And it's been so awesome, like to be able to reconnect with the Wisconsin sports community, high school and college, to be able to go to Badger football games, to go to a bunch of Badger basketball games. We're season ticket holders for the women's basketball team. And it's just been so awesome. Now, I will say we still have a house in Cleveland because we love Cleveland, and we never thought we'd fall so much in love with Cleveland. And it was a hard move to leave after 12 years of being there, after having 3 of our kids born there. But I think it was the right move, and we've never looked back after we came out here.
Nice.
In that case, what do you miss about Cleveland?
I miss the fishing. Lake Erie is unbelievable. Like the walleye fishing there is second to none in the world. The perch fishing, smallmouth bass. But I miss being close to the team. I'm a huge Cleveland Browns fan. I do some work for the team still. And I miss the people, right? The people in Cleveland are awesome. Not only just my friends and the fans of the Browns, who are some of the most loyal, passionate fans of any sports team in the world. But I just miss a lot of the people that I had met throughout the days, and just the quality of people. And that's not to say Wisconsin doesn't have the same type of people, but hey, who says that they have enough friends in their life? I want more friends. I want more fun and great people to be around.
You got a friend in us. I can tell you
that's
that.
Right.
Hey, so take us back to.
I only have a room for a certain amount of friends. and so a buddy of mine is a comedian. Like if he introduces me to a friend and his name's Steve, and Steve's got a boat, then somebody that's on the list might be out of the out. But I'm glad that you can take that many people in your life. You're a better man than most.
I like the idea of having friends that have boats and not having a boat yourself. You're a smart man,
nice.
John.
They say that, what is it about a boat? Your best day is the day you buy it, and the worst day is, or the second best day is the day you sell it, or something like that. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, Joe, so take us back to playing for Wisconsin. And by the way, we talked about this a little earlier off camera, but 2003, 4, 5, and 6, when you were at Wisconsin, my brother was actually at UW Whitewater. And so I didn't watch a lot of Badger football back then because I was a huge Warhawk guy. But take us back to your playing days here at Wisconsin. Take us back to those moments where you were like, man, this is insane, including the Capital One Bowl, unfortunately, when you tore your ACL. But what was it like for you as a Wisconsin boy wearing the Cardinal and white?
Yeah, it was so special. It was a dream career. I think the only thing I wasn't able to accomplish was get to that Rose Bowl and win the Rose Bowl, which it is the ultimate goal. But we had an incredible amount of success when I was there, including my last season going 12-1 in Barry Alvarez's, or excuse me, going 12-1 in Brett Bielema's first season as a head coach. And I think we were 11-3 or something like that in Barry Alvarez's last season. We were able to send Coach Alvarez off with an awesome victory in a Florida Capital One bowl game. And I made so many incredible friends on those teams and was able to play for some of the best coaches in the country that prepared me for a career in the NFL. And I'm not arrogant enough to think that I could have had the same path through the NFL if I chose to go somewhere else, because the development that Wisconsin gave me in the weight room, on the practice field, with the coaching that I was able to get, in the meal hall with the food that they were able to feed me to bulk me up, in the bars with the cheese curds and the dollar burgers on Monday night and the beer to help bulk me up, because I was only like 250 when I got there. I feel like the entire experience that I had at Wisconsin could never be replicated and couldn't be beat anywhere else, certainly. And so I just felt so lucky to be able to have those 4 years as a Badger. And I think that was part of a big reason why we decided to move back, because our experience in Madison playing for the Badgers was so amazing.
So we're in Madison, we're 72. Cleveland, we're 73. High school, 61. Do numbers not matter to you? Because most people are like, they're attached.
I never had a chance to get attached, right? I never had one girlfriend for too long as far as the numbers go. And so there was not too much attachment. I mean, I loved 72, and I would have continued that number in the NFL, but I'm also thrifty, being a loyal Wisconsinite. And there was a 72 who was our starting right tackle at the time when I got drafted. And he said, "Hey, if you give me $10,000, you could be 72. Even you could be 72. And I said, "I'll keep that $10,000. And why don't you give me a number that's close to 72? And this will be sort of a new beginning for me." And so that's how I ended up with number 73, and never looked back. And now I feel like this strange association to both numbers, because I still kind of love 72, and it's fun when I do autograph signings to sign Badger stuff with 72, because that was kind of the first number that I really was attached to, because I did play 4 years with that same number at Wisconsin. But I'm not as attached to numbers as a lot of guys are, certainly.
You're pretty attached to 73 on Twitter. It's at Joe Thomas 73. Hey, so you talked a little bit about your relationship with your dad earlier and fishing and all those things, but there's a certain level of mentorship that comes along with a coach. We know that you were just on Barry Alvarez's podcast. You have a long-time friendship and relationship with him. You were back for his big ceremony. Talk to us about what Barry means to you, Joe.
Well, he means an awful lot to me. He was like a second father to me. I had him for 3 years as a head coach. I was a captain for one of those seasons, and he was so good at taking boys and molding them into men. And for that, I'm forever grateful. But he had a way and a tact of doing it where he was tough but fair. He was asking a lot of you. He forced you. He encouraged you to work extremely hard, harder than you ever possibly could have imagined. But he did it in a way that made you love and respect him. There's plenty of coaches that are out there that can beat it out of you, but then you resent them for it. Barry had this real unusual way about him. I think a lot of it was his charisma, his vision, his way of seeing something in you that you didn't even see in yourself, and how he brought that out of you, that you gave him a unbelievable amount of respect. And the relationship that you had with him almost felt like a father. And I think when you listen to other guys, especially after he's retired, you listen to a lot of those stories from guys that played for him, and you hear the same thing. Barry Alvarez was a second father. Or for some guys who maybe didn't grow up with a father, Barry Alvarez is like my father, because he was able to mold me into a man and into somebody that I am proud of today, that I don't think there was another college coach, there was another college mentor that could have done those things for me.
You say the father. Trevor had him on, just called him the Godfather. He talked out loud what everybody says in quiet.
Absolutely. He was the godfather. And that was great. If you didn't know him personally, he was the godfather. If you knew him personally and he had a hand in your life, he was your father.
I want to know. I want to know how you've gotten out of this, out of the career, and not developed the body by Bielema, because I feel like that's right there. If you're not careful when you get out of the game.
Poor Brett. He didn't have the benefit of growing up drinking beer because he's grew up in Illinois and Iowa. And for me, I grew up around it, so I know that there's a place to drink beer and eat cheese curds. But then the next morning, you better get your ass in the gym. You better get your ass outside on the farm doing some hard work, or you're going to get the body by Bielema. And maybe not every night you should have 30 beers. That is a difficult thing to overcome. And certainly there's people in my life that do the 30 beers every night, but you do pay for it after about 30 years.
Yeah. Yeah, we can tell. So you maybe don't drink 30 beers every night. And by the way, those got to be Miller Lights over my shoulder. I mean, Absolutely. That's just required for us.
Of course.
But you do eat barbecue all the time, and it's there in your shirt, Joe. Mission Barbecue. And JA, we're getting one here in Green Bay real soon. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so Mission Barbecue, great concept. We have a great mission to give back to first responders, police, firefighters, EMS, military, and that's sort of like the mission. That's why the name is Mission Barbecue. It was founded by a guy who's actually from Milwaukee, Bill Krause. He and I became friends actually when he was working at Under Armour. He was the first outside hire at Under Armour when they were kind of going from a company of like 10 people that had one shirt into the $1 billion company that they have right now. He was their marketing director. He signed me to Under Armour as one of their first clients. I think I was like client 7 or 8 as an Under Armour athlete. And we just developed this really good friendship, being that we were both from the Milwaukee area. He actually went to Wauwatosa East. My mom was from Wauwatosa. And we developed this friendship. He did really well at Under Armour, as you would expect, and then kind of retired. But him and I always had this passion for barbecue. And so he would always travel the country, especially once he was retired, and try all these different barbecue. And he noticed that barbecue was really regional in the country, where, you go to Kansas City, you got the Kansas City barbecue, go to Memphis barbecue, Texas barbecue is like beef. You got Carolina barbecue, and it's all really good in its own way. But there really wasn't a lot of options where you could go to one place and you could get all of it. And so he saw this need, and he had a couple sons that were in the military, and he saw this loyalty and this patriotism that he felt that he wanted to kind of put those two together, because he said, there's nothing more American than barbecue. And that's why Mission Barbecue, my shirt says the American way. At least I think it does. I can't see, but yeah, it does. It says the American way, right? Because barbecue is the most American food that we have. And he said, I want to make a restaurant. And at the time he was talking to me about being a partner, but when it was just an idea, and he said, I want to call it Sloppy Joe's. He's like, I think it would be so good. It kind of has that offensive lineman mentality you like to eat. And of course you're sloppy. I can see it on your shirt. Your shirt tells a story every day. And I'm like, yes, I've got barbecue stains on my non-white t-shirt. And he was like, let's do it. I'm like, I'm all in. Right. So he ended up changing the name because he wanted to really make a big part of his restaurant to be giving back to first responders and to saying thank you as a way to say thank you. And so the name changed to Mission Barbecue from Sloppy Joe's, which I feel like was a good name change, by the way. But he opened his first store in Maryland because that's where he was after he was done with Under Armour. And then from there, it's kind of grown and expanded. And I haven't been involved in all the stores, but I've been involved in most of the Midwest stores. And one of the goals for both of us when we sort of joined this partnership was we got to bring barbecue to Wisconsin, because we love the state. We love everything about it, but it just doesn't have good enough barbecue. And so we opened stores in Brookfield. We've got Kenosha. We've got Madison. We're moving up to Green Bay, like you guys had talked about. And we're trying to expand to hit all the big markets, because we feel like it's a concept that really plays well in the Midwest. It's played incredibly well throughout the Midwest for 2 reasons. One, because of the values that the company has reflect the values of this area. And so people feel good walking in. And when you eat barbecue, you feel good coming out, mostly as long as you don't overeat too much. Yeah. But I would say from a health and wellness standpoint, we're finding out how good protein is for longevity and for maintaining healthy bodies, especially if you're a person that likes to work out. And right. I feel like it's the perfect combination of everything that you want in a restaurant. It's extremely good food, and it's even better the next day. So you always should walk in and order more than you need, because leftover barbecue might be the best barbecue.
Nice.
We have one of those in Southington here in Connecticut. We have a Mission Barbecue. So football player, entrepreneur, when it comes to as a chef master or whatever, you're a barbecue master, you're good at the smoker. How's the broadcast life treating you?
It's great. I love it. It keeps me close to football. It gives me a reason to pay attention to everything that's going on in the NFL. And I think after 11 years in the NFL, I kind of felt a little bit burned out, especially the lack of success we had. There was a drudgery aspect to showing up to work every day when you're 1-15 and 0-16. And so I didn't really love football. I loved a lot of things about the NFL. I loved the locker room. I loved going out there, and on Sundays, sort of that's your test day. Like, hey, you either pass or you fail based on your preparation, the work that you put in. I love my teammates. I loved a lot of things about it, but I was feeling like a little bit burned out, primarily because of the losing. And so getting into the media world was that perfect balance of, hey, football's still in my life. I still have a reason to care. I have a reason to pay attention. But I also have a lot more free time than I did when I was playing, so that I could reinvest myself in my family as a father, as a husband, as a friend to so many people. When you're playing in the NFL, you just don't have time to have those big groups of friends like Trevor does. Unlike John, he just shuns the friends, even though he's got the time. And
Correct.
It's been so much fun, because now I just finished my 4th year of doing the pregame, halftime, the postgame for Thursday Night Football. It's been so fun to kind of still get a little bit of that rush that I got when I was playing, because when you're doing live TV, as you guys know, when those lights come on, it's a pass or fail. It's a sink or swim moment. And I love how, as me being a person who always prided myself in my hard work and my preparation, the feeling that you get when you go out and you do a good job and then you walk off that set and you get to watch the game, it's a feeling that you don't get in a lot of other areas and aspects. And I feel like loss of that feeling is why there's a lot of guys that retire from the NFL and they never are able to capture that. And so they do tend to struggle a lot of times in retirement.
When the lights go on, you're on, and the sweat starts. I don't know what you guys in the studio is like, but man, it's warm again.
We got to get some Inside Wisconsin tank tops or cutoffs there, because that sweatshirt's not working for you.
Gun show. Yeah, I'm warm. All right, we'll wrap it up with Joe Thomas in just a bit. We're Inside Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Roll Tech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Helpful critiques, ideas, great stories, people we should know, the great bar in your town, the fish fry you want to know, the fish boil, anything that you want to reach out to us with. We are happy. We are here. You can be the inputters. We're here to listen.
J.A., in Wisconsin, it's always grilling season, and our guy Joe Thomas is a big barbecue fan.
Is it always grilling season?
What? Is there ever a time where you really, I mean, if it's like 30 below, maybe then not, but there's some dudes that are into it. Yeah. Well, and so the smokers, and you go to Festival Foods and you get the legendary beef. I mean, our guy Joe Thomas knows what he's doing behind a grill. Follow him at Joe Thomas 73. It's at Joe Thomas 73 on Twitter, and you will see some food coming out of that guy.
He made a good point too, right? Red meat, let's go protein. You got to go hard. Yeah. Everybody, for a while, we scared it off, right? Everybody was going to eat carbs, and now we can't eat carbs. They're terrible. That's it. Now protein and beef and cheese and eggs are in, which I'm all for. I like I like a well-balanced. Like, listen, I'm never going to give up a piece of bread or a roll. Are you kidding me?
Fair, right? With butter.
Most people I know, you too, right? Whatever they go with now, the 4 food groups, I think they have a pyramid, and they changed it a bit from when I was a kid. But basically, if you eat a little of that stuff every day, then you'll be fine, which is what I always am amazed by people out here. And by the way, let me know when we open a Festival Foods out here so that I can go ahead and shop there.
Get on that, would you please?
Yeah. I can't get Culver's out here. I can't get Festival. What am I doing? Can't get Leinenkugels. I mean, this is terrible.
I suggest you move home. That's just really the only way to go about this.
Thanks.
Get back here.
You and my mom.
Yeah.
I suggest you move home.
Well, it's interesting to know that Joe Thomas lives in Madison. I didn't know he was back in Wisconsin. There's numerous festival foods down there. I'm willing to guess he's a legendary beef fan. It is officially spring here in Wisconsin, and let's be honest.
So now you can fire it up. Yeah.
Yeah, now you can. It's not that
you can bring your
it's better
matches,
now.
get
A lot
some
more
lighter
comfortable.
fluid.
Yeah.
We can argue another day whether you should have a gas line or if you should use charcoal.
Okay, that's a different story. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's officially grilling season. Get to Festival Foods, check out their legendary beef, and let's have a summer, Wisconsin, with Festival Foods. Trevor Thomas, not related to Joe Thomas. Neither of us related to John Anderson. We're back inside Wisconsin. All right, a few for me, then it's lightning round with John Anderson. So this list thing has gotten me into just a lot of trouble in the last year. I'm curious, though. I'm going to put it on Joe. He grew up here. Joe, have you ever thought about a Wisconsin Mount Rushmore? And if you have, who makes your list?
One that's easy for me is Brett Favre, because not only what he did for the Packers, but like the personality that he embodied and the way that he was embraced here. Also, I was 12 years old when he won the Super Bowl, so he was like a god for me. So he easily is like that first face that when I close my eyes, I see Brett Favre up there. This may be a heavily skewed towards the Packers list because I was such a big Packers fan growing up, but I feel like Reggie White being, in my opinion, one of the two best defensive players of all time. I feel, and the guy that helped lead the Packers to that Super Bowl with Brett Favre in '96. I feel like he's got to be up there. And it's after that, it's like, okay, I feel like Aaron Rodgers is up there, but I'm sort of running out of space, and I got all Packers up there that are modern era Packers. Like, where do we leave room for Bart Starr and some of those great players from yesteryear? I feel like Vince Lombardi should be up there. He's got to be up there, right? Like,
yeah.
Him and Bill Belichick are the two greatest coaches of all time. And then maybe Paul Brown, probably like in that top three there. So I don't know how many people are even on Mount Rushmore. Is it 4? Like, I'm running out of space.
Yeah,
so,
you're out of space.
Oh boy, we're in big trouble, and we haven't even touched Bucks. We haven't even touched Brewers,
or Barry for that matter.
We haven't touched Wisconsin athletics, which Barry, revitalized Wisconsin. So as I'm thinking quickly through my head, it's Barry, Brett Favre, Vince Lombardi, and then I feel bad not putting like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on there, but I wasn't even alive when he was winning and doing awesome stuff. I mean, Giannis is going to have an argument maybe when it's all said and done. There's nobody from the baseball side of things. Robin Yount was huge when I was a kid, but I'm not sure if he's up there yet. So I got Barry, Vince, Brett, and then leaving Aaron Rodgers out would be tough, but not having Reggie White on there, like I'm going to say Reggie White, like those four guys, just because I feel like Reggie White, from a defensive standpoint, most people that have watched the NFL are going to say he's one of the 3 greatest defensive players of all time. And he was so meaningful for the rebirth of the Packers along with Brett. That even though it's hard not putting Aaron Rodgers out there, I think when his career is over, there's going to be some argument as to where he falls as the greatest quarterbacks of all time. And I don't know if he ends up 1 or 2. Obviously it's going to be Brady, and then who's, 2, 3, 4, maybe Montana, like some of those other guys. And I think Aaron will probably fall right behind them. So because of that, I don't know if I can usurp Barry for what he did for the state and for the program at Wisconsin, not only as a coach, but as an athletic director. And I don't know if I can usurp Reggie White, who I never saw Lawrence Taylor play, but I think he's probably a better player than Lawrence Taylor. And to me, it's going to come down to Aaron Donald and Reggie White.
Yeah. All right, John, you go with rapid fire.
All right, quick. Outland Trophy winners in Wisconsin history, too. You and who else?
Gabe Carimi.
Give me a guy in the NFL that just wore you out, even though you were a 11-time Pro Bowler.
Dwight Freeney.
Oh yeah, he was crazy. Of all the quarterbacks that you played with, give me the one that had a winning record.
Brian Hoyer.
10-6, correct.
Yes.
Good for you. Give me the first game you saw LeBron play.
It was actually right after I got drafted. I think they were in the NBA Finals or the semifinals, and I couldn't believe the eruption for an offensive lineman that crowd had when I was announced into that stadium.
If you're going for a fish on a Friday night, walleye or perch?
Perch.
And the last one, give me the greatest athlete ever at Brookfield Central.
Kenny Harrison, Olympic gold medalist and Olympic record holder in the triple jump.
That is the correct answer. And
yes!
Someday I will tell you the story about getting beat by Kenny Harrison in the triple jump.
Oh, I love that.
That's awesome.
I imagine it was
so
not
much,
close. Oh man, thanks for having me on. This was awesome.
Joe, we're super grateful, man. We couldn't have dreamt this up any better to launch season 2 of Inside Wisconsin, and I'm glad that all is right in the world with you and I, man.
I love you, man. And how can you not love a brother like with the same last name? Come on, Trevor.
Yeah, right. And the same follicle challenge deal.
That's right. That's not what we're gonna because it's embarrassing up there.
Full coverage.
Very
jealous,
good for you,
John. All right, Joe. We'll see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, guys.
So you see, you always think I'm focused on track and field, but Kenny Harrison, Brookfield Central, is by far the greatest. So Olympic gold medalist, had the U.S. Record. He still has the Olympic record. Had the U.S. record for 20 some odd years up until just recently when Christian Taylor broke it. High school phenom, who I watched jump at the state meet, where they actually, Trevor, everybody's warming up. Okay. And this guy comes blowing down the pit, and he off the board and goes out of the pit. So we're like, oh, his step's got to be off. Or be like, so he does it again, and he goes out the pit. And they're like, okay, well, this is now they have to look and see what they're going to do. So they go back and they take a can of light blue spray paint, and they go back 10 feet and they make another line. So there's the board. Now we've just made a line on the asphalt for this other dude, right? You know you're going for second when they make a new line. Like everybody goes, coach, you can win. No, you're going for second when they make a line for one dude.
Yeah.
And that dude happened to be Kenny Harrison.
Wow. And Joe got that
win there. And then I competed against Kenny all through college. Never got rid of him. We were in the same events, but he was a long jumper, triple jumper. He went to Kansas State. 8-time Big 8 champ, a couple of NCAA titles, maybe 3 of those. He was fan. You can't even describe how great he was.
Yeah, well, and you asked who the best athlete was, and Joe Thomas got it right. I got to be honest, I thought that was going to be a lot more painful. I'm really happy with how that interview went, and so maybe that can be put to bed now.
Guy, he's Joe. Like there was never going to be any issues with that.
No, I didn't think he was going to have an issue. I texted a friend and said, "Hey, we're going to have Joe Thomas on." He goes, "That is going to be an hour-long beratement," and I'm like, maybe not an hour.
Like but you got off easy.
Well,
I
appreciate
that earlier.
Yeah, you did. All right, we're good. All right. So, hey, thanks again for the quick nod to a Trevor, Wisconsin as we wrapped up season 1. But let's get back to normal, back to what we know best, the next John, Wisconsin.
So we had some candidates for John, Wisconsin this week. Kenny Harrison, I kind of went into. He was really good. There's a Jim Brown story in honor of the Browns when he looked at me and said, I won't go into all of it, but he just said, son, you're doing more talking than listening.
Okay. A different time.
Didn't talk for like 45 minutes. But I thought I would settle because of the fishing and the time of the year.
Okay.
It is Joe likes to fish. I have dabbled. It is prom season. It is March. The smelt are running. I'm going to tell you the smelt story.
Here we go.
So me and roughly the same cast of characters that went out and relieved Oneida Golf and Country Club of some of its flags.
Was this also the same group that went to Pete's Beach?
2 of them, Pete, Byron, myself, Todd Teskey, Mark Halava, and Rick Crossland, I believe, are the protagonists here.
How did that?
We load up as always in Pete's Volare cruiser. And so the one was homecoming. This is now prom season. So we remember to turn the lights on, which is terrific the whole way. We don't get in any trouble. And we're going to go smelt fishing because it's the same night as prom. And what we used to do at prom is we'd go to prom, but then oftentimes we would take our dates home and then we'd go smelt fishing. So now it's our senior year, and really nobody would like to go to prom with any of us. Here's the 6 of us, and we are all dateless for any number of reasons, but mostly it was like, hey, we're going to go smelt fishing at 11, and so prom's going to end for you at 11, and we have no dates.
You ditched them last year. Of course you're not going this
We
year.
have no dates. So here we are. This is great. So we load up. We go next to Rick Crossland. We go to Doc Ock, who is a great orthopedic surgeon in town, did my knee. And we get the smelt nets from Doc, and we pile into the car with a few beers, and we head north to Bayshore Park. Okay, so what's that?
All right.
20 miles out of town, if that?
Yeah, no, that's not
Bayshore Park used to be where the Packers had training camp when it was the Rockwood Lodge or whatever it was, the Redwood. So we go up there, and we're all out there, and we cast our nets, and we are pulling in fish after this. It is abundant fishing. Things are good. We're filling up the 5-gallon buckets of fishing. And now we have a net that is stuck. We have a net that is stuck. And by the way, we can't find Todd Teskey, who, by the way, Todd went on and was, this is right here. We are high school vagrants, deviants. And Todd, after going to UW Oshkosh, worked his way up. He was the president and CEO and chairman of the board of Briggs and Stratton for years.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Okay.
Just
successfully, guys.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Mark Kalava was on the trip, right? He's an emergency room doctor in Milwaukee. Great. So we go, and Todd's nowhere to be found, and we're pulling and pulling, and we can't find this. We can't get the nets now. It's all guys pulling on the same line, and we're working, and we're going from different angles, and we can't get it loose. And finally, we're going to give it one more pull, and we all yank, and boom, out it comes. We all kind of go falling back, just like a Three Stooges movie. Nets released, fish are picked up, tops are put on, we get in there. We walk. Teskey, where are you? Teskey holds up a 6-pack, and there's one beer left. So we know where Teskey is. He has given up the fishing, and he's decided he's going to drink beer.
Perfect.
Get in the car. Now we got our gaiters on. We're going to now go drive to prom, and we're going to bring the fish, some of our catch, to a guy named Nate Smith, because Nate had wanted to come. He gets elected prom king.
You're come. Taking the smelt to
Can't
prom.
come. Taking the smelt to him.
Okay.
Get in the car, we drive. We're about halfway back when we realize we're a man short. Okay, so we're not exactly the Marines, but we realize we can't. So now we got to turn around. We drive back to Bayshore Park, and there's our buddy who apparently, when the net gave way, fell back and hit his head on a rock and was out cold, and therefore was not able to walk back to the truck. So back to Pete's Filari Cruiser. And we find Byron, and he's just laying there on the rocks.
Oh, so, still out?
Well, at that point, woozy.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of unaware as to what he was or what was participating and where he might have been. But we get him, and we kind of get him back right. And now he knows who he is and where he is. And we put him in the car, and we drive back to Southwest High, and we go to the gym in our waders with a bag, just a hefty bag full of fish. And we present those to Nate, and he's honored, obviously.
Oh,
this
clearly.
is a big deal.
Yeah.
And then I believe the rest of the fish, I don't even know if we ate them. I think they went, they became fertilizer at Steve Sharp's dad's house for some of his garden and some of his plantings. But so that was the one time in my life that I went smelt fishing. And the fishing itself was sort of a success.
Yeah.
The rest of it all was just an absolute hot mess, crazy shit show. And and my boy Byron, who was at Pete's Beach. We just left him on the rocks. But as I say, we went back and got him. Happy ending.
As are most of these John Wisconsin stories. Chaotic and a happy ending.
Seriously, right? Have you ever met a guy who is a bigger candidate for natural selection?
You have had some luck.
I am surprised. Like, if you take my driver's license away, I might walk into a telephone pole. I don't know. But there we are. But so happy smelting fishing, because I know they're kind of running. They're all in right now. That should be that time in and around this episode. And, God bless. I've never gone back, never wanted to risk it. But again, I can't say that no one was injured in the making that story, but everyone survived. Which is,
everybody's still here. Okay, well, I got to be honest. For a guy that doesn't think fishing is a sport, we talk a lot about fishing on Inside Wisconsin. We'll see if we can keep that going. All right, there you go. That's a wrap. Episode 1, season 2. We're off to a great start. Thanks again to Joe Thomas being here. That was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I was sweaty in the beginning of that. We're better now. All right, make sure to subscribe here on YouTube, like us on Facebook, at Inside Wisco Show on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're out there. We'll get him on one of these at some point. There's a little nod. There might be some social media stuff. We'll see. We'll see. All right. For John, I'm Trevor. As you were, Wisconsin.
Inside Wisconsin is brought to you by Baycare Clinic, Cobblestone Creek, University of Wisconsin-Platteville, Roll Tech, Festival Foods, Capital Credit Union, North Star Mohican Casino Resort, American Family Insurance, Miller Lite, and Aaron's Company.
Shut up and sit down.